Okay, so I wanted to do a broad comparison of the Zelda series. I really wanted to kind of create an idea of what is the core of a Zelda game, really as an idea. And it's difficult to say, but it came to my mind actually. I was playing Zelda 1. And of course, in Zelda 1, when you want to take out Dark Nuts, you need to strike them from the side or behind. And I hadn't really thought about that. It was just a thing in the game, and you just did it. But I started thinking about it. And then I said to myself, oh, in Wind Waker, when you fight Dark Nuts, you need to strike them from the side or behind, because that's how you get their armor off, and then you can attack them normally. So I was saying, oh, is like Wind Waker then playing like Zelda 1 in that way, except like way higher definition? That's interesting. That's a very interesting thought. But it made me think about Wind Waker. And this is one thing I want to say about Wind Waker is that I don't feel is said. I think Wind Waker. I think Wind Waker probably, yeah, was the last game that I think that came out that had that traditional kind of Zelda feeling. You know what I mean? I think Twilight Princess established a new kind of feeling for what Zelda is. That's been followed ever since. I mean, of course, from Twilight Princess on, you play as adult Link. You do not play as Kid Link. Wind Waker is the last 3D game where you play as Kid Link. Of course, Wind Waker is, in many ways, many firsts and many lasts in the game, in terms of the Zelda franchise. It is the first and last major 3D game that has the Toon Link design. It's the only 3D game that has it, which of course makes it feel unique in that degree. Apart from that, within its timeline, it is the end of Ganondorf. Ganondorf dies in that timeline. It is the last Zelda game to have a magic meter, actually. Which might shock you, but it is. Wind Waker is the last. Wind Waker brings a lot of references back to Zelda 1, Zelda 2, and Link to the Past, even over Ocarina of Time, which I like. Wind Waker in terms of gameplay and is of course mostly derived from Oot. But in terms of the story, technically it's a sequel to Ocarina of Time, but in many ways it feels more like a sequel like to Link to the Past, which is why I always like to place Wind Waker after Link to the Past in the timeline, and not Oot. I mean, of course, the intro shows a child Link fighting Ganon, Ganon looking like his traditional form, like he is in Link to the Past. You get to the Hyrule Castle, and it's a statue of Link, who looks like Link to the Past Link. If he's gonna look like anything, that's what he looks like. He has the kind of hairstyle, the length of his hat, his body. It's basically like a Link to the Past Link in a Wind Waker art style. That's what he looks like. I mean, of course, the Zelda design is kind of like, it's basically like an adult Zelda from Oot made into like that Toon character design. To be honest, that's basically what it's like. It's almost the same outfit, which is kind of nice, like the same dress. That's the interesting thing about it. What I mean by references to Link to the Past as well, I mean, of course, when you get into the Hyrule Castle, the theme it plays is the Link to the Past Hyrule Castle theme. When Tetra becomes Zelda, it plays the Link to the Past jingle. That. It plays that. When Link is dubbed the hero of winds, it plays the Zelda 1 theme. You know, it's the Zelda 1 theme, and it starts in that way, as that intro. He's not playing Ocarina of Time music. And it's like, Ocarina of Time, of course, used songs from past games, but it had its own songs. And Wind Waker, of course, has its own songs, but whenever it chooses to harken back, it's either Link to the Past usually, or Zelda 1. And that's interesting. Maybe you can say it's just because those games are more nostalgic than Ocarina of Time at that time, because Oot was still kind of new. Kinda. Which maybe you can say that, but in many ways that's what I was trying to talk about. Because what I feel is that Wind Waker is the last Zelda game which feels like a classic Zelda. You know, it's Wind Waker and then Minish Cap, I guess. And from then on, whatever it may be, good or bad, it does not feel like a classic Zelda. Twilight Princess changed things up. There is no magic meter in Twilight Princess, you know, to begin with. Of course, Twilight Princess is heavily inspired from Oot. But it feels new. Honestly, and I'm not even saying that's like a bad thing. I'm like, oh, it's new. No. Honestly, whenever I play Twilight Princess, I get this feeling. This is the new Zelda. This is the new Zelda. Not only for the game, but for the series, but not only in that regard. Whenever I play Twilight Princess, I have this feeling that this should be the modern Zelda. If you know what I mean, right? It feels so proper. The time when Twilight Princess was brand new and it was the newest Zelda and all that. It feels proper. It honestly does. To this day. It's kind of funny. But in that way, Twilight Princess debuted something new and different. Twilight Princess and Phantom Hourglass, I guess you would say, were the transition. Of course, Phantom Hourglass takes many things from Wind Waker. Many things. But, no, it's not, you couldn't call it traditional. It's, of course, a 3D overhead perspective and these kinds of things. So, I kind of don't count it. It's not that I don't count it as in, like, don't count it as legitimate. I just don't think it's important, right? Not that important. But Wind Waker, you know, Wind Waker's nostalgia mainly is Link to the Past. And of course, there's the other element. You know, I went into a combat example. Dark Nuts are like Zelda 1 Dark Nuts. They are Dark Nuts, actually. You haven't even... Were Dark Nuts even in Link to the Past? I'm not sure. You had those guys who, like, were throwing maces. I'm not sure if those were Dark Nuts. You have Iron Knuckles. They're from Ocarina of Time and Zelda 2. But honestly, if Dark Nuts are not in Link to the Past, that would have been the first reintroduction back of Dark Nuts since Zelda 1. Which makes it even more epic when I think about it. But it's in that aspect. It's one of the reasons I love Wind Waker, because here's one thing people say, which I completely disagree with. A lot of people say Wind Waker, in terms of its plot, compared to something like Majora's Mask, is not as impressive or noteworthy because it's kind of formulaic. In that way, they'll kind of boot it in with Twilight Princess, and they'll say, well, both these games have Ganondorf, and he's there, and he dies, and it's Link and Zelda and Ganondorf, and, you know, it's the regular kind of shtick, is what they say. In the case of Twilight Princess, I can agree with that in varying degrees. In the case of Wind Waker, I do not agree with that. I do not agree with that sentiment. You know, obviously, of course, it's Link, Zelda, Ganondorf, or whatever. I'm not disputing that, but I am disputing the fact that, oh, it's just a regular Zelda kind of thing. And that does not have meaning as a plot or originality. That's therefore kind of boring. I completely disagree, and I'll tell you why. It's because in my mind, as I was just saying, Wind Waker is, in my mind, a classic Zelda brought to a modern kind of standard. And that's important. The Wind Waker intro is the way you think of the legend of Zelda. Everyone shows those kinds of hieroglyphics when they're talking about the legend of Zelda. That art style, that Hylian text. That is Wind Waker's intro. And that is encapsulating what Wind Waker was trying to do, which is create this art style, which would be a standard for Zelda. It's the only art style that could even be close to a universal standard for Zelda. It's the only one. It's the only one because it's been used in many other occasions. But it's that makes Wind Waker very important in a way that I don't think it's properly appreciated for. Wind Waker is a proper tribute to classic Legend of Zelda, a proper celebration of that. Twilight Princess is a celebration of Oot. Oot's accomplishments, what Oot means, and I like Oot, and I like Twilight Princess. But neither of those are classic Zelda. Or at least not wholly classic Zelda. Wind Waker kind of like meets both of those and tries to establish basically a new standard for Zelda, but in the end it was rejected, so they went back to Oot. And in the end, everyone liked Twilight Princess, but it wasn't pushing much new ground, so Skyward Sword came in and pushed new ground, to be sure, but Skyward Sword is its own in my mind. Skyward Sword is its own in many ways, and that's not a bad thing. Keep in mind, I'm just noting differences here. I have my preferences. Wind Waker is, of course, my preference. But I'm not saying Twilight Princess or Skyward Sword is bad. Skyward Sword is its own, and I honestly love it for that. In terms of characters, in terms of setting, I could even say in terms of art style to a degree at this point. Skyward Sword established its own kind of methodology for Zelda, and at this point it's becoming the universal art style. That's kind of a mesh between, and to an extent I can respect that. It's not for me completely. It's not for me completely. I can respect it. For me, Wind Waker is the definitive. Wind Waker is the definitive. And it's those other little things, right, that future games just don't get. They don't get. And again, it gives Wind Waker that intermediary feel between the 64 games and the games that came after. Just like the sound effects, the presentation, these kinds of things. When I'm on Wind Waker, and the sound effects in the game, like when I'm on the menu, and the little file selection of files scrolling, while it plays the Great Fairy theme. This is Zelda. I don't know if you heard that. I don't know if you heard that. But this is Zelda. That traditional sound. But that is traditional Zelda. That sound effect. It brings me right into it. The moment I start Wind Waker, I feel like I'm playing a modern Zelda game, a modern adaptation of those old games. In terms of combat, I feel that. In terms of the setting, I feel that. In terms of the music, I feel that. In terms of the sound, I feel that. In terms of the art style, I feel that. I mean, of course, when Wind Waker was coming out, they originally were going to have a design. Link's design was going to be much more similar to Link from Zelda 1. That kind of color scheme. And it gives me the impression of what they wanted to do with Wind Waker. that they wanted to make Zelda, bring it back, formalize it in that way. At the same time, give it the new flair, which is the Great Sea, which I love in Wind Waker, which I love how that was handled. I love the world of Wind Waker. And other things. I mean, you have like the sages when they play their melodies. That sounds so Zelda, so good. I mean, with Wind Waker, like the first dungeon is a fire level. The first boss is Goma. Old, but a mix-up. You know, Goma is from Ocarina of Time, first boss there. Of course, Goma is also from Zelda 1. Feels like a classic adaptation of that old enemy. You know, of course, you have the other things which Wind Waker puts forward, like the Rito, and you have the Koroks, which become their own. And that's enjoyable. Wind Waker brings back Tingle from Majora's Mask, and it moves that up, and it brings that in and makes all that a modern Zelda. And it's because Wind Waker has all those things that the art style which Wind Waker uses can be used for all these other things as well, which it is used broadly in many other Zeldas. Like I said, it's the closest thing Zelda has gotten to a universal art style, except for kind of what we're getting now. But I think it needs to be completely respected for that, for creating the standard of what Zelda looks like. And of course, Wind Waker itself looks so good. You ask me, best looking Zelda game to this day. Bring on the hate, don't care, say whatever you want. That's my honest opinion. Best looking Zelda game to this day. Breath of the Wild looks nice, but that art style is good, and it has qualities. Good for it. I like Wind Waker's style more, honestly. Style over substance, indeed, and I prefer Wind Waker's art style over any other Zelda game. I think it looks great. Yeah, I mean, Breath of the Wild has good presentation overall. It's good, certainly. I would say it's the second best next to Wind Waker, but I think Wind Waker is still better. Presentation, Breath of the Wild is better, but it's like the plot in Breath of the Wild is kind of like very one note, very minimalist, so I'm not even sure if it's fair to compare that to Wind Waker. Wind Waker does answer several character arcs, namely Medley and Makar, which I thought were well done, especially. I love their theme. Very traditional Zelda. Oh, man. Because I think, those are all new songs just from Wind Waker, and they sound like they fit in completely. You have the Outset Island theme, the Great Sea theme. They sound like they fit in completely. Ganondorf's Final Boss theme. It's remixes and these new songs, which feel completely appropriate for Zelda. You have music from the games on. I've been mixed on. Not mixed in terms of the quality, in terms of that traditional Zelda feeling to it. Twilight Princess, you're like the main theme of Twilight Princess. I like it, absolutely like it. I'm not sure if it's there, though. I'm not sure if it's there completely, though. Other themes from the kind of, all the remixes I really like, but the original piece of Twilight Princess, the atmospheric pieces I definitely like, but I'm just talking about that traditional Zelda feel. When I hear it, I don't completely get the impression it's Zelda music. Not completely. There's some aspects of it where it has its own style, like City in the Sky. I really like that, because of course it has that kind of uka sound as the backdrop for the dungeon, which makes the area, self-contained as it is, feel like it should. Like that's exactly the music you expect for all that build up. In Temple of Time, though, I don't get a Zelda feeling from that, and I should, right? I kind of do, but I don't really. But Wind Waker, I mean, are you going to listen to the Great Sea and not get that kind of feeling? I got that feeling immediately. And other music in the game, which from what I understand is completely original, but it sounds like it's just right at home. You know, like you have when you're awakening the sages, you have that one theme that plays from a car. Um, you know, it's an opera, and then he'll play it on his violin, and it's like it's similar to the intro in Wind Waker, which is excellent, and as I've said, best intro in any Zelda game. It's that, and then it's the Skyward Sword intro. Both of those. And by the Skyward Sword intro, I mean like when Link wakes up and goes to meet Zelda. That scene is brilliant, alright? That scene is brilliant. Brilliant characterization. The music is way too good. Don't get me started. I've gone on to it in other videos. Too good. But the Wind Waker intro, like, let me just go on this, right? I've said not only visually is it perfect. It's a perfect demonstration of the Zelda lore. If you never played Zelda before, it gets you into what you should be thinking. Exactly as it should, right? Exactly as it should. Better than Oot, better than anything. Better than anything else. It gets you right into it. And if you are into it, then you respect it. And it's great for that reason. The music. Wind Waker's remixes are so great, they pay full tribute to their originals. And it's just incredible. Nah, 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 nah. Yes, yes, yes. Is that Zelda 1? I'm not sure. I don't know, but it's amazing. And then it cuts. Yes! This is it. This is it. This is the proper adaptation, the true celebration of the Legend of Zelda franchise. This is it. This is it. You know, am I wrong? You know, am I wrong? I don't see much people hating on Wind Waker, so I don't think most people think I'm wrong. But like, I just don't think Wind Waker gets enough respect for that. Wind Waker gets general respect. People will say, "Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was a good one. Pretty good." But they'll smite it down, and I say no. No, 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 no. This is a proper adaptation, a proper transition for The Legend of Zelda into a new era. And what I think is the most sad is not that this was done improperly, because it was not at all. It's that it was not followed up on properly. Twilight Princess, I don't think carried this onward properly. It didn't carry it on badly, but I don't think it carried it on properly. I think Skyward Sword was picking up the pieces well, and then I don't think Breath of the Wild carried it properly. Bring on the hate, but I honestly don't think so. Breath of the Wild is great as a game in terms of gameplay style, but in terms of its plot, the only thing that's remarkable about it is you can just say it's the end of the Zelda series in terms of its timeline. Cool, but the plot is very simple. It's kind of like a Zelda 1 reformat. Impressive at that, but it's like I'm not trying to hate on Breath of the Wild at all, but in terms of story, it's not comparable to Skyward Sword. It's not comparable to Wind Waker in this aspect, or Twilight Princess or anything like that. So that's really the key of what I wanted to say. That's really the key of what I wanted to say. I mean, I could talk about Ganondorf and Wind Waker if I wanted, or whatever. But that wasn't the point. The point was to articulate my feelings towards Wind Waker and how how I think that aspect of it, how it encapsulates, how it defines the Legend of Zelda franchise. I don't think has been given proper respect, um, by others. So, hopefully, I can make you like Wind Waker even more because I absolutely love it, and I absolutely love how it respects the classic Zeldas. So, thank you for watching. I hope to post more Zelda content. I hope to post more content of other series. I have like a bajillion series I can cover, right? There's like no limit on how much I can make videos about. So subscribe if you are looking for that. I know, sorry to repeat the obvious, but maybe you're 5 years old and you've never done it before. I was at that point once too. Do that. Watch. I mean, like the video. If you like it. That's what I do. I got like 15,000 videos I've liked. I've created multiple playlists to like my videos. So get liking, get subscribing, get watching, and I love you. And not much more to say than that. I hope you love me too, but you don't need to. So goodbye.